This is a video about Mikey and Nicky. But before we get to here, there are two key figures I have to get into before I get into all that. Let's start first with the writer-director of Mikey and Nicky herself, Elaine May. Elaine May is many things, but I'll only get into what I find important. The first thing that you will need to know to understand both the start of Elaine May's legacy and also the foundation of her DNA is the improv comedy duo Nichols and May. The comedy of Elaine May and Mike Nichols is a focus on realism, and not just a Chekhov or Italian neo-realism type of realism, where you just are left feeling, wow, I feel for these characters because these are people and these are situations that feel so real to me. No, it is more like a super duper type of realism where you get an insight into certain people's lives.
I'm sure, darling, that all of your cabinet has mothers.
Darling.
And I'm sure that they all find time before their breakfast, before their Senate hearings,
Mom.
to pick up the phone and call their mother.
Listen, Mother, now...
And see details that you just don't want to see and you feel uncomfortable. This is a type of humor that has remained relevant and evolved to today, with current examples being Nathan Fielder's combo project with Benny Safdie, The Curse, and even outside of comedy with things like Kendrick Lamar's Mr. Morale and The Big Steppers, and more specifically his song We Cry Together.
Give me my fucking keys! Ah, now you mad at me, I got you hollering for nothing.
Nichols and May was a duo that had a massive success, not just through doing sketches together, but also Broadway together. Nichols and May could have stayed for decades to come, but Elaine May started feeling dissatisfied with her work, and so it started feeling unfulfilling, so they both decided to break it up and separate into different sectors of their careers. From the years 1961 to 1968, Elaine May stuck to Broadway. During this period of time, Mike Nichols himself began his film career with Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf in '66 and immediately followed that up with his era-defining The Graduate. Both were movies that revealed a continuation of the showcase of and unbearably real moments found in the comedy of Nichols and May. But through these movies, he showed how he could transition this sense of realism into drama and intensify the expressiveness into a dramatic form. Elaine May, during this time, wrote and directed a couple of plays throughout the years, but her biggest hit was a one-act adaptation of Terrence McNally's Next. After finding success, she finally got a contract with Paramount to write her first film, A New Leaf, which only at first was supposed to be a writing gig, but after being unable to find any director whose style she could approve, she chose to direct it herself, making Elaine May only the third woman admitted into the Directors Guild of America. Elaine May did not find too much success with A New Leaf, but it was just enough to direct her second project in the following year, The Heartbreak Kid. Brief interruption because I went on this long tangent in the original audio about the types of characters Elaine May likes to make movies about, but I think the only thing you really need to know is Elaine May likes making movies about how stupid men be and the poor women who fall for their tricks.
Leonard's so positive, isn't he, Mother?
Okay. Moving on. Let us move on into John Cassavetes. John Cassavetes is a relatively known Hollywood actor. If you are my age, your parents or grandparents might know him best from The Dirty Dozen or Rosemary's Baby, but his acting is not the main thing I wanted to get a focus on. I more so wanted to tell you about his directing career. John Cassavetes is known as the father of the American independent film, and not in your A24 type of independent production studio. No, I mean literally, he financed his own films himself with the money he got from acting. He did his films with his wife and starlet, Gina Rowlands, and what this self-finance was difficult to do, but what it allowed was total creative freedom to whatever the John Cassavetes wanted to make a story about.
Half of the battle to make a good film in the United States, a free film, when I say good film, it's a free film. Whether it's good or bad, we don't know. But we'll put a year in for no money, for no anything, simply because there's an expression that has to be said.
I don't want to get too much into how yet, because it's vital to Mikey and Nicky, but the main thing is he went for a sort of realism that you didn't ever see in other type of movies. You got to see moments in a household which feel very intense to sit through. It's like watching your parents fight. It's similar to Elaine May's type of comedy, but in a very dramatic form. It's a side of American home life that you never got to see on the big screen before. And John Cassavetes used his freedom to make the film no matter how he wanted to achieve a sort of realism that you could never get unless you did it through the way he did. All the films by John Cassavetes are worth watching too, by the way. I think Mikey and Nicky is a good introduction to his style in a way. Anyways.
Elaine May had written a script called Mikey and Nicky. I thought it was a tremendous script. And Elaine and I thought that John would be wonderful to play in it. And I made a meeting with John. It was in the Paramount commissary. And I told him, Elaine wrote the script, and we would like you to be in it, and I'm here to ask you whether you'd be interested in it. He said, I'll do it.
And thus began Mikey and Nicky. Now, Mikey and Nicky is a movie that needs to be watched again and again and again and again. While A New Leaf and The Heartbreak Kid were both adaptations of other works into a movie, Mikey and Nicky is a complete original. A gangster story, not in a The Godfather, Michael Corleone type of way, but in a Nichols and May type of way, which may not seem so fascinating and cool to watch, but at least it makes it feel true. Mikey and Nicky is a movie that takes place all through one night and is actually based on two friends Elaine May knew when she was younger, and the story of one friend being ordered to kill the other.
See, your murderers come with smiles. They come as your friends. The people who have cared for you all of your life, and they always seem to come at a time when you're at your weakest and most in need of their help.
Mikey and Nicky likes to take that concept of a gangster story and have it end up being a tragedy about the end of friendship. Now, Mikey and Nicky is a movie that needs to be watched again and again and again. The movie needs to be seen again and again because it is a movie that changes each time you watch. There are cuts you notice that you never noticed before, faces that tell you one thing one time and something else another time. This amalgamation of abstractions comes from intimate rawness, and how do you get that? I would need to tell you about a directing method that I mentioned earlier, but I did not want to explain until now, that John Cassavetes uses. This method is a process of shooting scenes again and again. The most popular example of this method is from Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. The Shining was a very extreme example where Kubrick had moments where, like, Jack Nicholson axing down a door 60 times, and infamous moments like making Shelley Duvall and Jack Nicholson do the bat scene an astounding 127 times, and it wore Shelley Duvall down to the point where she almost had a nervous breakdown.
Need to trim that.
Hunks of hair.
Oh, look.
Okay.
Comes out.
Okay, right now, fellas.
While at the moment this just seems cruel and abusive, you got to remember the great effect it had. When you force your actors to work harder than they need to and tire them out to a point, they will have a physical frustration and tirelessness in their face that you wouldn't get to see otherwise. This gives them a added layer to their performance because it is so real. The rawness you feel is so intimate. In terms of The Shining, terrifying. John Cassavetes has made his movies way before The Shining was even made, and he's been doing that with his films. Maybe it wasn't as intense as Kubrick did it, but John Cassavetes did it to a point where you got a whole real sense to these characters, where you feel like you knew these characters, and that's what made them feel so uncomfortable to watch. Elaine May chose to direct in this method for Mikey and Nicky and accumulated over 1.5 million feet of film. In comparison, Gone with the Wind has only 400,000 feet of film. 1.5 million makes the movie the most ever film stock shot until Damien Chazelle's First Man from a few years ago. John Cassavetes directed a lot of takes over and over again because he gave himself the financial freedom to do it. But since Elaine May was still going through a Paramount situation, she went through the studio. So it actually led to a lot of legal trouble, and the final cut of Mikey and Nicky was not actually released till 2019 when Criterion did. Even though I say say being able to shoot the scene again and again did give John Cassavetes and Peter Falk the freedom to experiment around with how they performed in each take and try different things and nuances with each take, but don't think that means it was improvised. None of it was improvised. If you read the script, every word said in the movie was scripted. While they didn't improvise, I have trouble writing my thoughts on the movie, and I keep on getting off topic and talking about other things than the movie, so I want to talk about the movie in my thoughts in a freestyle. Every time I watch it, I kind of get something new. The first few times I watched it, I was really upset because I saw John Cassavetes' Nicky, and I could relate to him because I felt like I was that guy, like the guy who was maybe cool, but he would get onto and banish his friends just to make others laugh, and he would use everyone else to make others laugh besides him, and that's what makes him such a bad friend. But this time I kind of understood. I'm more like Mikey, because he thinks he's doing good, but he is kind of more ethical in a sense, but his life is more sad. No one really likes him. He's kind of pathetic. He doesn't even know he's pathetic, and he's coming in terms with the fact that Nicky really is his only friend. And as he watches that happen, he gets really upset because that's the only person he has left. Not even his family is as close to him as Nicky is. The whole dynamic was very tiring too. There's a lot of cuts. I never noticed there's a lot more cuts. You could tell they're putting scenes, stitching two scenes together, Frankensteining them, and it adds a layer and rhythm to it that actually just doesn't even help the pace. It just makes you feel tired at the end, and it's just sad. The ending is very brutal. Yeah. So I know I'm not talking too much about the movie, but it's because this is just a way to get everyone interested. I'm just trying to give some people some context so people have an interest in the movie. I don't want to spoil too much about the movie as I did with the last video, because I want everyone to have their own experience. I'm just describing my experience of what I noticed and what I loved. And that's all. Should I make a Patreon? What movie should I do next though? Subscribe, like, and please comment. What should you comment about? Either comment the movie you like, comment a movie you like, or your favorite water.